Finance can be messy, but don't worry, we clean it up with fun, facts, and maybe a little sarcasm. Welcome to the Financial Sandbox. Let's get into it. Today, my guest is Matthew Meredith. Matt, you sit in a very unusual chair. You're an attorney, a CPA, a tax strategy thinker, and you've lived inside the financial advice world. Most clients have 3 advisors who barely talk to each other. You seem to be building a model around the idea that you can have a multiple personality disorder and still be effective.
I think I do, come to think of it.
Did I get that right?
Maybe so. Yes, I do. But let me correct you. I am not a CPA. I'm a certified financial planner professional.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to say CFP.
But I am a tax attorney, so I guess that circles it back around.
Yeah, I did. I meant to say CFP, not CPA. Excuse me. So what problem did you keep seeing so often that you finally said, I need to build the firm differently. I need to do this differently? Because you came, tell us a little about yourself. You came from a couple different firms and on your way to where you're at today.
Yes, so my background was actually not advising. I was an equities trader. I got licensed in '05, Series 7, then I grabbed my Series 55 to be a market maker. Was told by the company I was working with, hey, you want to go down to Boca Raton, Florida and help set up a trading desk? I'd never been to Boca. I didn't know what it was. I'm like, yeah, I'll go help them. Within 7 days, I called my mother. I think I'm staying. I kind of like it here. Now, of course, this was in November of 2007. So we all know what happens in 2008. And as I'm shorting Lehman Brothers down to zero, I suddenly realized I better look for another job because I don't think we're going to be equities trading anymore, prop trading for companies. And with that, I got into advising, got up with JP Morgan, and it was a different role back in 2010 when I was doing it. It was really the advisor, really kind of handled everything. You picked mutual funds. It was all full service brokerage. RIAs didn't really exist at that time.
Right.
I ended up not wanting to be in Oklahoma of all places. And so I got hit by a tornado, an F5 tornado, and said, okay, God's telling me it's time to leave. And so I came back to
tornadoes.
There's a lot of bad signs that keep popping up in my history. Like, oh, you think you're going that way? No, we're going to go this way. Here's a market crash. and so I was at Capital One. I had come in, and within 3 months, they we encourage the CFP certification, but you need to be here within a year. And I was like, I'm not waiting a year. So I started studying immediately. I was doing really well there. I understand the market. I understand trading. I understand advising. So I got my CFP certification, and then I started thinking, you know what? I enjoyed the study. So I'm going to go and see if they'll let me get my Series 24 license again that JP Morgan wouldn't hold when I came on board, but I had back when I was a trader. And they're like, yeah, go have fun doing it. I had a blast.
I'm going to interrupt you really quick. Series 24, supervisory license. So let's talk about, tell us what a Series 24 is, because my audience, we talk about, we have acronyms and licenses. Let's tell people what they are.
Definitely. So Series 24 is supervisory, as you said, and we were in the trading desk. I was 27 years old. All of these older retired New York brokers who had moved to Florida were sitting there. FINRA does their check on us, and they said, who's the other 24? You have to have 2. And being the youngest guy, they all kind of pointed at me. He's getting his license. And so I went and got the Series 24. But the first time I took it, like a lot of people who take FINRA exams, thinking, oh, this will be easy. And then halfway through, you get up and go to the bathroom and start making deals with God. Like, just get me through this. That was the first time. I wanted that license back because, as you know, it's a good license to have, but I had given it up. And so they said, yeah, you did so well on the CFP, go get it. I said, really? Okay. So I went and studied. I go in to take this test, and you've been into the Prometrics or the place where you take the exam. You know the
Yep.
intensity.
Yep.
After like the first 15 questions, I'm realizing like, oh, I got this. This is the easiest test I've ever taken compared to I'm so over prepared for this that I lean back. I'm just clicking the button, looking around like, oh, you must have a hard test. I make an 87 on it, which is phenomenal for a
That's
24.
great. Yeah.
I come out and it was the high I had from taking that exam. And I realized I like this. I'm gonna go do something else now. What
Yeah.
that became was let's go to law school. And law school was chosen for multiple reasons. As an advisor, I would sit there with a client. They'd say, hey, I need to sell this. What is going to be the tax ramifications? Well, you've been in the firms, you know what they say. Well, I'm not a CPA. I can't give you that advice. You
Right.
need to go see your CPA, which to me is the worst possible thing a professional can tell me. And people have told me, well, Matt, I'm not a CPA. I can't tell you. And it's like, well, what good are you if you can't give me my answer? And so it would happen with the legal side too. You'd send them over to see an attorney.
Right.
The attorney wouldn't communicate with you, wouldn't communicate with the tax professional. And then they'd come back and say, I'm confused because the attorney said I need a business, but couldn't really tell me anything about taxes. And the CPA says I need to S corp it, and the attorney doesn't know. So now I have to go pay somebody else to find out what I need to do, an actual business attorney, not an estate attorney. Thanks, Matt. You've cost me 5 times what I expected to spend. And then it was just like, okay, I understand. And that's where the realization law was the route for me to go. I had debated a master or something like that, but law really became the what can I do in a position where I can hit all of this at once? Because the industry, as you know, it's fragmented and built in silos.
Right.
Everybody's their own separate ordeal. And very few times do people get together with all of their advisors at once. In
Right.
all of my years of advising, I've been licensed since '05. I have only met one time with a CPA and an attorney and the client. And it was weird because didn't really know each other. And it was almost this beat your chest, who's the brightest mind in the room. And my idea became, what if we all got together? We all focused on you. If you need tax, we have tax. If you need investment management, we have it. If you
Sure.
need legal advice, we have it. If you want me to sue your neighbor because he won't move his car off your property, we have it. It is a one-stop shop. And that's where it was born. Now, I had no idea going to law school at 38 would be as brutal as it was. And it was brutal. I'm not going to lie
Of
because
course.
oh, well, as other people, I'll never forget, it was my second or my last semester. And so it's supposed to be relaxed. No, I'm taking corporate tax. And all these people in finals are talking about, oh, we watched a movie in Second Amendment law and we wrote about it. No, not me. I had to break down a complete corporate tax structure for a company. And I was like, why did I choose the hardest path? Well,
Right.
as
Exactly.
my professor had told me, my tax professor, I took 7 classes with him, we became friends. He said, education is the one thing that people will pay full price for and not even get any value out of. And so it always stuck with me that, hey, if I'm going to pay 120 grand for an education, I might as well go all in. And so that was the thing. And then when I came out, it was all about the last 4 or 5 years has been how do I put all this together? How do I build this out so that when a client comes in, it's hey, get with my CPAs, my estate, my business people. Let's sit down, figure out what's going on. And instead of you running around to 4 different people who aren't communicating, we're here. I'll bring the kolaches, you bring the coffee. And that's how it was formed.
So I'm going to talk about attorney and CFP, kind of superpower or handcuffs, right? Um, so tell me about how your legal training changed the way you look at a financial plan. I mean, what do you see that another advisor may not or might miss?
So when you have a plan built Typically today, it's built, like I said, it's built in silos.
Mhm.
Sometimes they align, most times I see they don't. Here's a perfect example. You go see an estate planner. You say, hey, when I die, I want my wife to have everything. Oh, okay, well, we'll make sure your wife has everything. But that estate planner may not be a business planner. That estate planner may know very little about corporate law. Does that estate planner know that, hey, these are your companies? And if the business, A, does he even know to bring the business into the trust so that it continues when you die? Because guess what happens to a business if you die? It shuts down.
Right.
If there is nothing written in there, you have to go to probate. Go tell your employees, hey, guys, hang on for 6 to 9 months. Don't go anywhere while we probate so that I can pay you and see what happens. Not going to happen. So that's
Right.
the first issue I see all the time. The business isn't aligned with the estate. And that's a huge part of your financials. The next thing I'll see is all the time people build out where it is aligned and they go to the bank or they go to do corporate agreements and the attorney who's doing all this is like, where's your spouse? What do you mean, where's my spouse? This is my company. Yeah, but it's owned by a trust which you both own, so your spouse has to now sign your documents because she's the co-trustee. You want to get somebody angry, let them know, hey man, I'd love to do this deal with you, but your wife's going to have to approve it first.
It is the question that happens a lot of times when you're selling real estate or operations, business, and someone calls me and I have to ask that question, how do you hold this property? Well, you hold it individually. Do you hold it in a trust? Do you hold it in an LLC, an S corp? And who are the officers? Who are the trustees? All of that is a factor in
Oh yeah.
that. Is there a time when like the attorney brain and the CPA makes the conversation more complicated or less
All the
complicated?
time. I can
How do you
complicate a
navigate
piece of paper, Herb. Well, it's that's the problem because for me, it's I view the whole thing, and the problem is I know what I'm looking at. My wife once told me, like, stop thinking everybody knows what the hell you're talking about because we're all sitting around saying, what's an IRC code, honey? And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, do I need to come back? But and so it's that double-edged sword because the mind goes out, starts seeing, well, I have a business. I don't want my wife signing. I need to make sure I build this trust out properly so my business interests are separate. But the client only hears, oh, your wife may have to sign on this, and they're like, oh no, that's too complicated. And I think the advantages come from the fact it is overactive. You're thinking from so many different angles, but it didn't start there. It,
No,
it
no,
started as an equities trader realizing, hey, this stock's falling. Then it started as a financial advisor looking more at longer term. Then it started as a tax advisor. So it's just kind of grown over the course of time. Now, when I sit down, it all goes back to the financial plan. Well, where's your money? How's it home? Or what happens if you die? And from there, you start adding the pieces into it.
right, 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 right. Um, does the legal brain ever fight with the investment planning brain?
Not really, because
Nope.
it's really all one ordeal. And the investment planning brain, I like to say it this way. When I worked at Capital One Investing, if I would have turned around and told a client, you know what, you should pull $2 million out of the brokerage account I get paid on and go buy an actual asset with it. A real asset, we can take tax depreciation deductions out of it. It'll grow long term. If the market collapses, hey, fantastic, you've got this asset that will probably still appreciate in value. I would have been slapped by my boss. Did you just tell your client to take $2 million out of the brokerage account? That's the reality of it. But not when I'm also the attorney, because
Right.
as the attorney, why are we stuck with all our money here? We need to go over here and do some kind of real estate, real diversification play.
Mhm.
And there's no I'd say conflict of interest, because either way, I'm still in control of it. I'm just transferring it from one thing to the next, saying, all right, now we're doing it this way.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really conflict. It actually, in my opinion, works out better, because I went from everything's a nail because all I have a hammer is, hey, look, I got a shovel over here. Let's go do something different.
Exactly. It's interesting because I come from real estate into financial services. Uh, a lot of times, I think real estate agents, in the role of a realtor, you hand a set of documents to a client and say, review the pest inspection, review the home inspection. But if you have a question, call the inspector, don't call me. Right? And we, as financial advisors and financial planners and CFPs, we hand a client a private placement memorandum, also known as a PPM, or any kind of document, and we say, here, read this, because we're going to meet on Tuesday and I'm going to read it back to you.
Yeah,
And I think the clients, they don't get really the difference because it's
no,
complicated, right?
it is. Yeah, it is. And that is the reality of it. As you know, with this industry having licenses, the FINRA license you have, you can't really wear two hats in one sitting.
Right.
And so on the financial side, it's, hey, here's your document, read it, understand it. And if you don't understand it, call your attorney. Well, the
Right.
client goes, but
I'm sorry. What are you here
Matt,
for?
you're my attorney. And I'm like, yeah, call me on Tuesday. Call me at my law office though, not this office. And that's the game you have to play though, because as you know, FINRA says this is the way it is. You can't have it a certain way unless you want to be like an RIA or something like that. But for most of my clients, real estate clients, people like that, it's a different type of investing where it's not, hey, stick it in here for 30 years. It's more like, hey, I sold this real estate property, put it into something that very unrisky. I'll probably pull it out within the next year and we'll go buy a new property.
Right.
And so it's
Never.
juggling and it's ridiculous, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, yeah. And when we talk about FINRA, we're talking about the Financial Regulatory Authority, for my audience here, and the RIA is a registered investment advisor. So we live in acronyms. So I'm going to try to do our best to explain them or spell them out. So since we're talking attorneys and advisors, what do most advisors misunderstand about lawyers, and what do lawyers misunderstand about advisors being someone who is both?
I was told once by a guy I did an interview with. He's like, so you can do the investments, you can do the estate plan, you can do the tax, you can actually build out asset protection and the entities. And he goes, that's kind of an unfair advantage, isn't it? And I said, to you, it might be. To me, it was paid for.
Right.
So the advisor, and I've also been told by companies because they've reached out to me, hey, move your brokerage business over to us.
Mm.
We'd love to work with you. And I said, well, I'm an attorney as well. My outside business activity, OBA, is a law firm. Do you have a problem with that? Oh, yeah. You see, we believe that it should be separate people for conflicts of interest. I'm like, so they don't talk to you? Like, how does that work out? Instead of having one guy who oversees everything, you should all be other people who don't really communicate.
Right.
And so that was the financial side. On the legal side, I don't, it's different for me because attorney viewing, the financial advisor viewing the attorney, it's that you know nothing about my industry, you're a lawyer. Well, they can't say that about me because I've been an advisor probably longer than most of them have.
Right.
I've got my own firm, so you can't really say that. You can't say, oh well, this is complex mathematical equations. Lawyers aren't good at math. Like, yeah, I'm pretty good at it. And
Right.
the lawyer, of course, coming into the industry, the advisor, it's a little bit different. Well, you know finances, but you don't understand how they connect to the overall picture. And so there's always that, like I said, our industries just beat their chests. And the question is, what about the client? It's not about, like, it doesn't matter if you do something different. It's all about the client, and the client's not being satisfied if he has to go see four different people and none of them ever talk to each other. And that
Correct.
really becomes my message, because as I grow, I really start specializing in, areas of real estate investing, kind of, as you now become my partner, because you have an attorney who actually really understands what you're doing. And then my response always has to shift to, and this is what I tell advisors who refer to me is, look, if I invite you out to eat, I'm not going to order and eat the entire sandwich myself. I swear to you, I will share and give you a bite or two.
Right.
And
Right.
that's how it becomes, because I see the threat from the advisor's mind is, this guy can do exactly what I do. He can sell exactly what I sell. He can also do full service products, and he can do the tax, everything else. Like, I don't want him poaching my clients. And so it becomes a very, like, here's our deal. You get this. I will back you. I will help you with it because I know exactly what you're going for. And I'll handle all the other matters. And don't look at it as, hey, we're competing. Look at it as, I'm now your partner who knows exactly what you want, because I have been exactly in your chair,
Yeah.
and let's work together. And you start saying, hey, me and this attorney who's a financial guy, we're going to come help you out. And those that I've done it with, it's phenomenal, because then they give me the call, hey, I got a client. I want to meet with her on the financial side. Will you come in, be the legal and tax side? And for the first time, the client will know, hey, we're really doing things. And so
Yeah.
my dream, my goal to change the industry, one advisor at a time.
Yeah. It's a challenge when I am on the real estate side, and on the finance side, a lot of times I'm working with realtors or their clients to, oftentimes they're doing a 1031 exchange. I'm moving their money into portfolio income in the Delaware Statutory Trust, a DST, and that seller has decided they're not buying more real estate. The realtor wants to sell them more real estate.
Of
but
course I do.
you really have to sit down and say, they did the reason we're talking here is because they don't want any more real estate. So the advantage here is that you're going to help them transition, and you're going to have a very grateful client who's going to get you an extraordinary amount of referrals, because there are always people in their life at their same age that may have the same issues. So it's getting them to understand that broader, bigger picture. So, but let's break it down and let's keep it kind of simple. And I want to talk about mistakes that families make. Tell me about the mistakes families make that seem small at the time, but create real difficulty for later trustees, heirs, and surviving spouses. What have you seen?
Oh, I've seen a bunch. When I first
Okay, we're
got
going to keep
licensed.
this a quick answer because
Okay,
we
then
have
I'll
to
drop it.
move on.
One of the things you see all the time is they pick trustees, and we'll go with this one because it's the most important. They pick trustees who are inadequate. It's my son, it's my oldest son. If I pick my middle son, it'll be an insult. Or they make them brother and sister together. Never got along in their life, hate each other, have even attempted to strangle each other as kids. But now they're gonna get along together to distribute your estate, show up at the bank together, sign things together, and agree on everything. Not happening.
Not happening.
And I'm gonna end it there.
And I think too, this is where, because I do the estate planning stuff too, because you're working with a client, you're going through their full assets, and you're helping them to get the estate plan together, because you're reviewing the trust and in the estate plan. I have to tell you, like in my own personal life, it's my best friend, my two best friends. It's not my son, my daughter, my spouse, my partner. It's none of that,
Yeah.
because and a lot of times I think people are attached to, oh, I want my eldest son or my middle son because my youngest son will not, or my youngest daughter, whatever that outline is. And I think they may not look at outside the family.
No, it's rare. Yeah, I agree with you.
And
I, I,
oftentimes it's better to have that outside of the family person to really help the family transition and make that transition.
and the more complex it gets, you can't exactly bring your child in or even tell your spouse, hey, you're going to do it. Like my trust, I'm an estate planning attorney. I can build out anything. Now, it took me many years to finally say, okay, honey, I'm embarrassing myself not even having a will. So I finally sat down and did it. It's complex. And I'm realizing my wife isn't going to understand how to do this. I can't pick my wife. And it becomes, how do I tell my wife, hey, look, I'm going to get an attorney friend of mine to do this? Well, the reality is my wife was like, oh, thank God. I don't know what I'm doing. And so it worked out that way. But when you bring in businesses, you bring in things that need to be settled, there's money involved. It's a whole different play where who are you choosing to do this? I see that as the biggest problem in all of estate planning. Other things follow. Hey, you didn't bring your business in. We talked about that. Other
Mhm.
things such as you put all your eggs in one basket and now you're being sued. Major problem for real estate investors. And those type of things can work out. It may never be a risk, but if you pick the wrong person from the get-go, you've now just hacked at that leg and you hope it doesn't fall.
Tell me about the family conversations that people avoid, the ones that, if they had them earlier, could prevent a lot of pain later. As my audience my audience is vast, but a lot of times I really want to help educate them.
I think the one that gets to me the most is when I hear, I don't care, I'll be dead. And the family just accepts it. I don't care, I'll be dead. Y'all figure it out. I get all excited. Fantastic, because now you're going to have to probate it. And if you come to me, let me explain to you how much and how long this is going to take. And I'm actually not even expensive when it comes to probate. But that to me is one of the things that family dynamics have the problem with is they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to accept the mortality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really talk about death as that's what we're planning. It's more I talk about incapacity because there's only one thing worse than death, and that's incapacity. And
Absolutely.
then waking up one day, like in all those movies where he just sits up from his coma 4 years later, realizing my business, my money, everything I owned is probably gone now because nobody could work my business. There was no person to step into the role. It's all gone now. And here I am, depending on your age, in my 50s and my 60s. This is terrible. And
Yeah.
that becomes the reality of it. You're not really planning for death. I agree with you. I don't care. I won't be here. But what if I don't die? Or what if,
Mm-hmm.
my wife, who I love and I want to support, what if she needs it? And then it just becomes, all right, it's literally for people, they have like 3 or 4 hours of talking to me. I show up with all the documents. I'm like, you're done. You're done. Everything's done. Call me if you need me. And
Right.
that's all it takes. But people think, oh, I got to get down and I got to list everything. No, that's all taken care of. You just sit down, decide you're going to do it, and do it.
You work in asset protection. A lot of real estate people hear LLC and think, I'm done. Why is that? Why is that dangerous?
I love being a plaintiff when they're like that. Oh, well, I formed it at the Secretary of State. Where's your operating agreement? What's an operating agreement? And I use the same bank account for all of them. It becomes, well, your house is now mine. The issue we have is that we live in a very litigious society, and
Yes.
people don't understand what happens when you as an individual makes a mistake. You're gonna probably get sued. And the problem is most people sit there and say, oh, I have an LLC, they won't get my business. Yeah, but who owns the LLC? Well, I do. So if I sue you, what happens? You get my business. Yes. In a matter of speaking, I get the membership ownership. And so it becomes, how do you protect that? The
Yeah.
things I see often is with these companies, and what I do a lot of is I'll take a company. It starts as a small company. It was a small company and I grew up massively.
Hmm.
And then the fear is if I do something wrong, everything's up for grabs. Inventory, assets, my money, my accounts receivable. How do I protect? And so what we do is what asset protection is. We tear it apart. We keep operations here, but now we have a separate company. All of these companies are owned by holding companies. So if you do get sued, it's compartmentalized. And then they got to sue you again to try to break, well, maybe not fully sue you, but they have to break through the holding company to get to you. And so then it becomes, I'm just never going to pay myself. You know, it's difficult. Let's settle. And so there's all these strategies. Real estate investors, as you know, I see the most is all your eggs are in one basket. I knew a guy had 27 homes in his name, his personal name. And he's like, it's too much work. And I'm like, well, A, you don't have to do it. I have to do
Right.
it. And
Right.
B,
Right.
like,
Right.
you're gonna let somebody take all of this? I said, you are the biggest target I've ever seen. If I wasn't an ethical, moral, upstanding person, I'd let you hit me with your car.
So I want to dive a little deeper into that, because there's a difference between owning assets and exposing assets. I mean, how do people think about separating their personal life, their business life, and investment life? I mean, that's what you're talking about. What are the, and you've outlined one mistake, but what are the biggest mistakes that investors make besides owning it all in one name, when it comes to building that legacy? Because that's really what they want.
So here's the most common thing I see, and we're both brokerage business and investment management. How many doctors have you seen? And this gets back to their same name, but they have that doctor firm or doctor firm. Everything's in one business. They may have an asset or two in it. And then they
Sure.
have that beautiful brokerage account that they love to talk to you about. And it's titled in joint name. And you sit back and you're like, you got $7 million right here, and you're a neurosurgeon who can be sued personally. Like, what are you thinking? But here's the thing, you can't just say, all right, and this is where the mistake is made. I'm going to make an LLC and I'm going to put all of my stuff in an LLC. So if you sue me, well, technically you're not getting it because it's owned by a company. We've already mentioned that. Yeah, but who owns the company? Oh,
Correct.
you do. So I can get to it. And then once you let them know that, it becomes, all right, what do I really do? And that's the stuff that is never talked about in the financial world. Ultimately, you can't own it. If you want to be protected, you can't own it. Or you better put enough layers in there that it's just not worth going after you for.
Right. Right.
And that becomes the reality of it. And people, it's not an easy fix. And it's
Right.
not something you have a brokerage account with $30,000 in it. You don't call me up and say, man, I'm terrified about losing everything. I'm going to tell you, well, what do you have left after you pay me? You can probably still owe me some money. And that becomes the thing. So it becomes, at what point do you do it? I'm always adamant about when it's worth protecting. And then it becomes, how do you do it? Because there's so little information in the world about how you really protect things.
Yeah.
There's tons of ways to do it, but nobody talks about it. And that's what always blew my mind in the investment at all these big companies I worked with. Nobody ever talked about the risk because it was, oh, thanks, I'll manage your money, we'll make our payment. This is somebody else's problem. This is your lawyer's problem. Well, sadly, I'm the lawyer now, and so it's my problem because I don't want my clients losing money because then I lose money, and that's the circle of life.
Sure. So if someone listening has 10 rental properties, they've got 3 LLCs and a brokerage account, and a 2009 operating agreement, which means they haven't looked at it since, you know, the iPhone had a home button.
That's all it had, no back button.
What should they do Monday morning?
It always starts with take a risk assessment. I hate that word, assessment, but that's what you're doing. Take a look. What do you have? If you have an '09 operating room, this is my favorite aspect. It was a partnership, and the partner died 25 years ago. Yet nobody could sell the company because they never took his name off the company, and now you have to, guess what? Go to probate. And this
And it
becomes,
happens in real estate all the time.
yeah, I've seen it happen a
I've
lot.
dealt with it many times. And this is what you and I are talking about. And part of this podcast is really to be educational to people, to say, look, if mom died or dad died, or there was a family member who you own this property with in partnership, you need to do those paperwork. I know of a situation where I'm in California, so the PG&E bill was still in mom's name 5 years after she passed away.
See it all the time. Yeah.
Right?
They couldn't change it to the new person because mom was dead. Like, what do we do? We got a great rate.
Right.
Like, well, your rate's going to change.
It's all of that. So I want to talk about your company, right? And I kind of want to talk about kind of a sensitive subject, but not a gotcha question. The advisory world and parts of the legal world. I just interviewed Brenda Johnstone, who owns Women in Car Wash, and recently interviewed Joan Perry, who started the first women-owned investment banking firm. Historically, this has been a male-dominated business, especially at the ownership and leaders level. Your firm is quite different. You have tell me about Hansel Ramney Jackson's role in your firm. What does she bring to Meridian operationally, culturally, or strategically that has shaped the way the firm serves your clients?
She has been that. I showed her the map and said, this is where I want to go, but I don't know how to get there. And she said, I will help you. And we met each other at another company. Relationships ended. I left. Other people left. And we reached out to each other. And I said, let's do it together. And she said, okay. And she came on board. Other people from that same company came on board, quite a few. And we built this company. And the big issue I had was probably where you started at first. I have this amazing message, but I don't want to sit in front of the camera and say it. I want to sit in the back room and draw it on a piece of paper and do the work. And Hansel repeated, my wife gets mad at me because she says, I've been telling you this for years. She said, you need to go get on camera. You need to make videos. You need to get the message out. You go do that. You focus on doing that. I will work on the back office stuff. And that's really what her role is operations. She does the things I don't want to do. Well, I want to do them, but the things that you're the biggest asset of this company. Why are you doing billing? Go make a video. You're the biggest asset of this company. Why aren't you shaking hands and networking? And it's because I don't want to go shake hands. I just want to sit in my corner. And so it has been that push to go forward. And here's the thing, like my whole team, and there's a lot of people who aren't on the website. My whole team is the type of people, I pick up the phone by accident. We all have our lines. I pick it up, not paying attention, thinking it's my cell phone. And they're like, where's Hansel? I'm like, in her office. And they're like, I want to talk to Hansel. She's amazing. I'm like, yeah, but I'm the owner of the company. What do you want? Hansel's just going to bring you back to me. It's like, let me tell you all about her. And the conversations they have. And I sit back and I think, man, I got lucky.
When we say we need more women in the industry, what are the practical steps? Is it mentorship? Is it ownership tracks? Is it visibility, sponsorship? What do we need to do to really open the door and make women feel comfortable.
So my dad tells the story to my wife. My dad was an electrical engineer draftsman. My wife is a civil engineer. And my dad tells the story about how it was this man's playground. And it was. I had gone to it in the 80s and there was smoking in the room, everybody cursing. And that women showed up one day and all the men kept getting in trouble because they hadn't learned yet, hey, you can't tell that joke anymore. You can't be what we used to be. We have to become civil people.
Mhm.
And I think he tells it to her because for a lot of women, it still feels, hey, I just walked into the man's home, the man's place. This is that kingdom, and I don't feel like I fit in. I don't feel like I'm part of this party they're having. They're mad at me because now they can't tell the jokes because here comes HR saying, and and I think that that might have been how it was back in the past, but it's that scar of the past because we have this conversation, she and I'm like, no, I said, I don't think that men think that way anymore. I said, I think what we're looking at is, can you make me money? And if you can, I don't want you working anywhere else but next to me because we're going to go make this money together.
Exactly.
And I apologize. I've got things beeping. And so that's my mentality anyway. I'm sure somewhere in some corner the guy's like, "You ruined it for all of us." But
Well, and I think, I was going to say, and you've just answered it. What do men in the profession sometimes do with good intentions that still miss the mark, right? And it's
and I think so. My mind is very money motivated.
yeah,
And so I see it as I don't care who you are. Like if you're making me money, come on in.
exactly. It doesn't matter
I
what you
think
look like. Doesn't matter your gender.
and I think like I've seen the guy in our financial industry services that new girl came in, she was a housewife and she's killing it. And it's like, well, this isn't fair. I've got 25 years of experience and this girl can smile and get a dollar. And to me, I think that might be the thing in the judgment that may be coming back sometimes as well. You don't have talent, you're just pretty. But let me tell you something, so am I. I don't have any talent.
So let me ask
and
you, what would you tell a young woman looking at financial planning, estate planning, or tax strategy, or the legal profession?
probably don't do it. but to
What
get
she
back
wants to
to,
know, is there a place for me?
oh yeah, there's a place for everybody. I've seen this industry change over 25 years, and the place is you don't have to ask for a place in this industry. You just make it on your own.
Absolutely.
But don't expect respect until you make it. And it's not because you're a woman. It's not because whatever reason you come up with, it's because you haven't earned it yet.
Sure.
But when you earn it, I guarantee it doesn't matter, woman, child, man, people will turn to you and be like, ooh, every time you walk in. And that's what this industry is about. That's what all of this industry is about. People forget that we are in America. It's all about the green. And if you can make the green, you're going to be respected. And that, no, is that the greatest way of life? Hell no. But that's the reality of it.
That's
If
the
you want
reality.
respect, do something that people will respect you for, but don't use I wouldn't call it an excuse. Don't let it hold you back that, oh, I'm a woman, they don't like me. Bull. If you are good at what you do, if you're trying, I've never met a man or any person who doesn't say, come work with me, you're really good. I'm going to make us a lot of money because you're going to do what you can.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Meridian. You guys bring sort of legal, tax, financial planning, and investment strategy under one roof. Where does that model create the most value for the client?
It's the fact that it's all part of our life that how can you have one without the other?
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem we have that I've mentioned. You have an estate plan, but it doesn't align with your business. You have a CPA, but you're not actually doing tax strategy. You own property. The lawyer wants to put it into a trust instead of turn around and say, we need to protect this from you being sued as well as it being sued. And that's where it starts. And the method is simple. You always start with the estate plan. Go all the way back to the little stick figure that you are and start building from there
Right.
because you got to have the trust. People ask me all the time, do I need a trust? And it's simple. Do you own anything at all? Well,
Yes.
a house. Okay, well then yeah, you need a trust. And,
Right.
and then and then I get the pushback. Well, they're so expensive. I'm like, no, you have no idea how expensive that gets. And so then it becomes building it from there, the trust. What is the trust going to own? Well, businesses, personal assets. Okay, how is the business going to function? Okay, it's going to have subsidiaries. And then it becomes, how do taxes work? I'm paying all these taxes. I'm not giving the government a check for this amount of money. Well, fantastic. You actually have a business model now that instead of giving the government money, you're going to buy an asset that's depreciable and you're going to start building depreciable assets over the course of time. And then it
Right.
all makes sense. And then ultimately it comes in with what do we do with all this cash now? And that's where the investment management part starts to form.
So as we start to wind this down, I want to get to some really quick answers. Tell me about a quick client situation that stayed with you long after the matter was closed.
The lady who refused to do something as simple as a transfer on death deed for her house passes away, and then their son calls me asking me to do a very complicated probate. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't have the time. I would love to. She would have saved herself so much money, so much time, but she didn't want to do it.
Right.
And it still bothers me today.
Right. Right. I know that story. I know that story. Um, Tell me about the emotional side of estate planning that people don't expect.
The relief that when it's over, it's over. And I don't mean death. I mean, okay, I'm done with it.
Man.
I did. If I die tomorrow, fantastic. But as I joke, and this is true, my wife looked at me the moment we were back in the car, having gone notarized everything. She goes, "Oh my God, I'm gonna probably die now." It's like,
Um, Tell me a time when families' legal documents were technically correct, but the family dynamic still made everything difficult.
oh, that happens all the time. I wish there was just a time. Probate court's full of them, and we mentioned it. You pick the person, your golden child who has 3 kids and is married and a job, his own business, and you expect he's going to come in and handle your estate. And it's not just okay, here's a few brokerage accounts. No, it's a business, and so it never gets done. And then the
Right.
youngest kid steps up because he wants his money and says, "Well, you're incompetent. I'm taking over." The middle kid says, "No, I'm taking over." And then it ends up in court.
Right. Right. And the only people who win there are the attorneys.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Tell me about the difference between transferring wealth and transferring wisdom.
I think they can be the same. Wealth can be wisdom. Wealth, though, is here's my money, enjoy it. Wisdom is here's my money, let me show you how you can make it do the same I've done.
Multiply. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
multiply.
Tell me about a moment in your career when you realized this work is not really about documents.
Oh, that was early on. In fact,
Yeah.
I say that all the time. I am not your document attorney. Don't call me asking me how much I'm going to charge you for a will. Um, that was early on,
Mhm.
especially with probate. You see it early on where they even got the documents, but they didn't do it right. It's
Mm.
about planning.
Mhm.
It's family dynamics and planning. And if it's sold to you as a document, either you better have very little at risk or you better hope to God it works out.
Is there a part of this work that still humbles you?
The thank yous humble me.
Mm.
The you're not like other attorneys humbles me. Like, oh, thanks, I guess.
Is there any client that sticks out to you where you go back to that memory and it really just sort of makes you calm?
A lot of them do actually,
Yeah.
because when you do kind of what I do, it may start as the estate plan. Hey, I just need a estate plan, but then it becomes, oh, you can also do this, and oh, you can do taxes, and oh, I didn't know you were a financial advisor. Here, they throw the statements at me, handle those, and over the time it builds to where you get phone calls for stupid things like, hey, I'm thinking about buying a house. It's probably way too expensive. I need you to convince my husband that it would be a good investment. But and I'm like, well, tell me about the house. And she's like, well, it's got this creek through it and it's next to the lake. I'm like, oh yeah, that'll be great for us.
But really, it's that trust that they've put in you. It's the
That's it.
honor. It's the place of honor that you are at in their lives.
Exactly. That to me is the humbling aspect where you're now calling me, asking me about these things. I got a call from, she was an investment client. I did a breach of contract claim for her husband's company. I then did their estate plan. And then there was another breach of contract. And then one of the employees calls me and says, she told me to call you because you're the corporate attorney now, and we have an issue. I'm like, I'm in Mexico. Call me next week. But that's what it was you're now in charge of all of this.
Right, right. What do you know about family, money, and planning that you didn't understand, 15 years ago?
Well, that's what I built out. That you can't have one and think you have the others. That if you don't look at it all as one, it's probably not going to work the way you think it will.
Mm-hmm. So in my brain lately has been Buzz Lightyear, to infinity and beyond, right? Where does that relate in your life and your role when it comes to like helping them to infinity and beyond? And that infinity becomes that transfer of wealth, that role you play.
Maybe not all the way to beyond. Like, I'll go with you to Mars. That's about as far. There's certain things I get the phone call like, I'm divorcing my wife. It's like, don't. I'm friends with your wife. Go away. So it becomes, it is something nice, and you've seen it in your industry, to take somebody and watch them grow. And as I get older, I find that I start doing things more for the people reaching out to me, that I'm never going to charge them. I'm never going to sit here and say, oh, you need this. I had a friend ask me, like, hey, I'm not getting paid. What do I do? Well, I spent 6 hours building out, here's your argument. This is what you need to do, and handed it to him. And then he said, will you just call my company? I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. That's as far as we go. But it's the taking people to that next level, because if you're at Capital One, I had a mentor. I had that mentor who said, he said, you must always be educating yourself. And the number one rule is bring everyone up around you. And that is my philosophy. And so when we talk about women, we talk about other people in the workforce, it doesn't matter who it is. Let's all go up together, because I'd rather you buy me a lunch and stick a knife in my back. And that becomes I can get you far, but it's not my job to get you beyond.
Well, folks, that's a wrap. I've really enjoyed our conversation today. It's it's wonderful to listen to your passion about what you do. I love how you really got into the business side of it, but we brought you down to the human side in closing. And that's really what our business is about every day.
That it is. A lot easier to be human than it is to be business.
Yeah. Yeah. Folks, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more raw, real financial talk in the sandbox. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Financial Sandbox.
It was a pleasure, sir.